Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to study a new topic, the bladder and bowel movements. For the questions related to these two movements, bladder and bowel movements, sometimes patients will feel embarrassed and sometimes they prefer not to mention these two aspects. So in this situation, you need to explain to the patient that these two movements, especially for the bowel movements, is very important for our diagnosis. And for the bowel movements, you can see the 脏腑 organs, the yang qi, the balance between yin and yang. That's also why we need to understand how we analyze the bowel movements. So the feces, the formation of feces is related to spleen and stomach, and especially the function of transformation, the transportation of and transformation of the spleen. So once the food from the food we eat in, it goes to the stomach, and the stomach can descend the food after they digest. They can descend to the intestines and then keep descending to the large intestine and from the feces in the large intestine. And this process also relies on the function of the liver, the regulation, the qi regulation function from the liver. And also we need a function from the kidney, especially for the kidney yang, to push down the warmth from the kidney, and also the lungs function for disperse and in charge of descending can help the bowel movements. That's why sometimes for constipation, sometimes the treatments we sometimes focus on the lung. This is also apart from the descending function from the lung, is also because the lung and the large intestine are coupled organs. And then for the urine, it's also related to the spleen and stomach. That's from the food, that's from the water metabolism from the spleen. And this process will rely on the kidney and the lung, the dispersing function of the lung, and as well as the Sancho. Sancho, sometimes if you are, until now you should understand what's Sancho. There's one student asked me what's Sancho exactly. So Sancho is just we explain in the 藏象 theories. The Sancho is the first school, the first theories of Sancho is the location according to different location of your body, upper jaw, middle jaw, and lower jaw. The second view on Sanjiao is according to the function. So the function of Sanjiao is where the qi and blood moves. So wherever there's qi and blood moves, we call it Sanjiao. That's why Sanjiao actually all over the body, because we have qi and blood moves all over the body. So the formation or the movements of the urine or urination is closely related to kidney, spleen, and the lung. Sanjiao is the pathways, and the different organs control the qi movements. So the inquiry towards the bladder movements and bowel movements, or the urine and feces, we can understand the excess deficiency, the yin and yang patterns of the body. And when we ask about especially for these two, we're going to focus on the property of the urine or feces, the color of the urine and feces, the smell, and also the time when they have these defecation or urination, the volume or the frequency. And sometimes we also ask about the feelings. So we're going to introduce these in details, and especially for the color and smells. We're also going to introduce in the inspection and the smelling method. So from this session, from the inquiry, we mostly focus on the frequency, the volume, and the property, and the feeling from the patient while they passing while the defecation. In order to understand the abnormal defecation, we need to study the normal defecation. So what kinds of defecation is considered as normal condition? A healthy person, they should have defecation every day or at least every second day. They don't need a long time for the process of defecation. Also, the feces is formed. The color of the feces mostly is yellow, and there's no pus, no blood, and no undigested food in the feces. So if the patient they tell you that they can see the undigested food in the feces, you will know that's abnormal situation. Especially when they eat some vegetables, and in the second day they can see the undigested leaves in the feces. That's considered as the abnormal defecation. And also sometimes, especially nowadays, for some patients or some people, they believe that we're supposed to have 3 to 4 times defecation per day, and that's sometimes the patient it's actually one of the patient told me that one of the practitioner told them they should have 3 to 4 times defecation per day, and actually this is considered as abnormal. The normal defecation we only have once every second day, once a day or once every second day. So these are the normal situation. The abnormal frequency can be divided into constipation and diarrhea. Constipation refers to difficult defecation, prolonged time of defecation, or infrequent defecation. Constipation can be divided into cold pattern, heat pattern, deficiency, and excess. Why the cold pattern can cause constipation? That's the similar question. Why the cold condition can cause prolonged time of defecation or infrequent, which means they don't go to toilets for a few days. This situation is you need to think about the cold pathogen. What happens? What's the characteristics of cold pathogen? The cold pathogen is an in pathogen. The in pathogen is quiet, slow down. So the cold condition will slow down the circulation, will slow down everything, including defecation. The second is the heat. So you said the cold pathogen will slow down the defecation, and then you understand, but why the heat? Because in the other words, the cold in compared with the cold, the heat is young, while the cold can slow down, but the heat also will cause constipation. This heat is an excess heat, and actually we got too much heat in the body. So the characteristics of heat pathogen or the fire will consume the body fluid. So in this situation, the body fluid in the large intestine will be consumed, and so we don't have enough body fluid in the large intestine. That's why the feces stays in the large intestine. That causes constipation. In this situation, how do we treat this kind of constipation? You still remember that in the previous videos, we have mentioned once that if you don't have water or you don't have body fluid in the large intestine, so the stool, the feces, is going to be hard. And how we think about this situation, it's very similar. You see a boat on the river, but the river has no water. That's why if you want to move the boat, you need to increase the water in the river. That's what the situation here. If a patient got constipation due to heat, we're going to have the treatment to clear the heat, but in the meantime, we're also going to have the treatment to increase the body fluids in the large intestine to help the movement of feces. The deficiency patterns is related to such as yang deficiency. What's the consequence of yang deficiency? That's a coldness. So yang deficiency will have coldness. Let's go to the coldness patterns. The similar situation also for yang deficiency. Sometimes the patient don't have enough qi to push the feces. That's why they have constipation. Also, deficiency can be qi deficiency, blood deficiency, body fluid deficiency. In this situation, they also don't have enough fluids in the large intestine, will cause constipation. Then the excess pattern mostly refers to the physical obstruction in the large intestine. This includes such as tumor or cancer or other blockage from the phlegm. These can cause constipation. Constipation also sometimes can happen in such as diarrhea. In other situations, patients suffer from diarrhea and then they take the medicine. It can be either tablets or herbal medicine for diarrhea to stop diarrhea. This can cause constipation if they overdose. Sometimes the patient after surgery, if the body constitution is still weak, they also can have constipation or extremely fatigue, extremely weak body constitution. The patient also may have the extremely weak body constitution. The patient also may have constipation. So these are the common situation of constipation. The next one is diarrhea. Diarrhea refers to an increased frequency of defecation with loose, watery stool that may contain undigested food. So diarrhea, firstly, the frequency increase. Loose stool or watery stool. So it can be either loose stool or watery stool. It doesn't have to happen both. The common factors can be like the improper diet or food poisoning. The pathogens attack, especially for the exogenous pathogens. It can be either kinds of exogenous pathogens. That's why sometimes the patients suffer from flu and then they get diarrhea. In acupuncture theories, we think that's the exogenous pathogen. It can either be wind, coldness, dampness, heat, or epidemic toxins. What's the epidemic toxins? This is actually the intestinal qi we mentioned in the basic theory. And then the liver, emotional disturbance. How can the emotional disturbance cause diarrhea? This is you need to think about the emotional disturbance. What's related to the emotional disturbance? That's from the liver. The liver is the wood. The diarrhea is related to the spleen. So here we mentioned the relationship between the wood and the earth. The wood problem will cause the earth problem. And kidney yang deficiency. Kidney yang deficiency the patient will have undigested food, and especially they have diarrhea in the early morning. That's related to the kidney. The diarrhea can be divided into two. One is acute diarrhea. The second is chronic. The acute diarrhea mostly is excess syndrome, with chronic mostly deficiency. So these principles can apply to other symptoms as well. The acute mostly is excess, the chronic mostly is deficiency. The associated symptoms, the damp heat including yellow watery stool, abdominal pain, burning sensation around the anus, and yellow greasy tongue coating. So these are some of the symptoms. The yellow, greasy, the yellow burning sensation are from the heat, watery, abdominal pain are from the dampness, and also the burning sensation is for the damp heat. So these are the feelings, the sensation from the patient. And sometimes, especially for damp heat, sometimes the patient pass the feces. Once they finish it, the defecation, they don't feel like they feel relief. They still feel they want to pass the feces. So that's the damp heat, the dampness. So in the inquiry of the defecation, we need to inquire the frequency, and from the frequency, we're going to see from excess or deficiency. Associated symptoms is from the diarrhea here, the cold dampness, include firm, clear stool, cold pain. What's the cold pain here? This refers to the pain prefers to warmth, or the pain can be relieved by applying hot bottles. Bowel sounds. What's bowel sounds? Sometimes the patient can feel it's actually the wind in the abdomen. So it's actually also the bowel movements. You can see the gas in large intestine, or sometimes you can just hear the noise in the large intestine. That's the bowel sound. Food retention. Food retention always has strong odor. It can be the strong odor from the stool or from the breath, that's the food retention. The liver qi stagnation. The sounds and the pain relieves after defecation. The weakness of spleen and stomach, including fatigue, dull pain, poor appetite. So these are the deficiency of spleen and stomach. The deficiency or cold dampness due to kidney yang deficiency. Diarrhea before dawn in the early morning. Cold limbs, that's from yang deficiency. Soreness, weakness in the waist and knees. That's the symptoms of kidney deficiency. So for a patient with disorder of defecation, you need to think about these aspects. The second is the abnormal property. The abnormal property includes the stools containing undigested food. Refers to the patient can see the undigested food in the feces. Acute conditions are often caused by food retention. The chronic condition can cause by deficiency. The deficiency of the spleen and stomach. And here, the discussion of the vital gates due to kidney deficiency. That's also just another word to say the kidney yang deficiency. The vital gates, that's another name we didn't introduce in the basic theories. It's another school to talk about kidney yang. They also call the vital gate. This especially for the yang qi. It says that the yang qi stores in the kidney. The stores in the kidney is similar. There's a gate to close the yang qi in the kidney. So that's why it says the vital gate. And why you can see the undigested food in the feces. And why we said it's the spleen and kidney deficiency. In this situation, how we understand the undigested food, we actually think about when you cook your food, in the kitchen, if you don't have enough heat, such as if you don't have enough gas, the food will be uncooked. So you will have cooked food, right? This is very similar if you don't have enough yang qi in the body, which is the warm energy in the body, especially from the spleen and kidney. Your body could not digest the food we eat in. That's why you will have undigested food in the feces. That's very similar uncooked food. So when you see the undigested food, one is the acute condition. That's for acute condition. Mostly that's from the food retention, and also the patient will have diarrhea. That's because of the food stayed in the body for a very short period. So our body don't have enough time to digest them. That's why you can see undigested food accompanied with the diarrhea. The second is the undigested food in a deficiency situation. The deficiency situation is you don't have enough yang of the spleen or kidney to cook the food in the body. That's why you have digestive food. The next one, alternating dry and loose stool. Alternating dry and loose stool refers to irregular dry or loose stool. So this sometimes the patient will tell you that their stool sometimes is dry, sometimes is loose. Sometimes they have constipation, sometimes have diarrhea. Mostly this happens in the disharmony between the liver and spleen. This explanation, when we study the therapeutics of the constipation and diarrhea, we will explain well in this situation why the liver and spleen, because this will need the explanation from how the detailed relationship between the liver and spleen. So begin from here, you only need to remember that the alternating dry and loose stool is related to the liver and spleen. Individuals with weakness of spleen and stomach may experience dry stool first and loose stool, and then loose stool. So at the beginning, at the beginning of the defecation, they have dry and formed stool, and then later on they have loose stool or even diarrhea. This is a situation we explain as the weakness of the spleen and stomach. Stool containing pus, blood, or mucus. Presence of pus, blood, and mucus in a stool indicates dysentery or intestinal cancer. These are the severe conditions if someone presents with blood or pus in the stool. In our theories, how we understand this is due to damp heat affecting the intestine, impaired intestinal cholesterol, and stagnation of qi and blood. The pus, the blood, why it's damp heat? That's because the heat can burn the muscle. And then once the muscle was burned, they're going to bleed. They're going to have a pus. That's how we understand the pus, the blood, the mucus in the stool. Bloody stool refers to the passage of blood from the anus. Bleeding can come from the upper or lower intestine. So how to know? It's from the further parts or closer to the anus. It depends on the color. The black or tarry feces are associated with the stomach and esophagus. The bright red blood, so the blood, the actual blood we can see is from the closer to the anus. So that's how. Or in other situation, you can actually distinguish before the stool or after the stool. If the patient presents the blood after the stool or at the end of the stool, at the end of defecation, we also can indicate that the bleeding area is closer to the anus. The abnormal sensation. The first one is a burning sensation around the anus. This refers to burning sensation around the anus during the defecation or after the defecation. You often see it in damp heat. So if the patient presents with burning sensation, you need to reflect into damp heat. In this situation, sometimes the patient also can present as a kind of heaviness. That's also due to damp heat, because dampness has the characteristic of heaviness. The heat has the characteristic of burning feeling. That's because of the fire. So the patient can present as the heat, the hot feeling, and the heaviness. Tenesmus. This refers to abdominal pain and constant urge to pass stools. Sometimes it's empty, sometimes also with defecation, and a bearing down sensation of the anus and feeling of incomplete defecation. So this description is very similar to the description that I said just now. A bearing down sensation. That's a kind of heaviness. They feel there's something moving down, very heavy. This is the heaviness feeling from the anus and a feeling of incomplete defecation. After they pass the stool, they don't feel relief. That's because they feel they still want to pass the stool, a feeling of incomplete defecation. This kind of symptom always presents in the damp heat or the dysentery. Dysentery is a kind of disease, but damp heat refers to a broader categories. So the damp heat, the districts can be damp heat, but also can be other diseases due to damp heat will result in tenesmus. So because of this symptoms is related to the damp heat in our treatment, we're going to clear the dampness, clear the heat. That's from the acupuncture treatments, how to treat these kinds of symptoms. Why we need to ask these kinds of symptoms. A sense of incomplete evacuation. This refers to a feeling of incomplete evacuation after defecation. So as you can see here, they always use different terms or different translation. What's important here is we actually need to understand the meaning behind this translation. You don't need to keep on stick on the words. A sense of incomplete evacuation is very similar to a sense of a feeling of incomplete defecation. So that's the same stuff. That's why from the contributing factors, also damp heat. Because the damp heat also going to obstruct the qi movements. That's why they feel incomplete. They don't feel relief afterwards. The fecal incontinence. Incontinence is inability to control bowel movements or cause stool to leak unexpectedly from the rectum. So in this situation, actually it refers to the loss of control of defecation, commonly seen in elderly or patients with chronic disease or diarrhea. This situation mostly happens in deficiency condition. The patient cannot control the opening or the closing of the anus. This also can happen in patients with the accidents or injuries from the spinal injuries, or sometimes happens in the intestine cancer. So for these symptoms mostly refers to deficiency. So we're going to stop here, and in the next video we're going to talk about the urination. So from the defecation or from the feces, we're going to focus on about the frequency, the property, and also the feelings from the patient. That's the three aspects we're going to focus on And from these three different symptoms from the patient, we can understand the excess or the deficiency. We also can see the different pathogens from different symptoms. So these are also from the theories. That's why we don't see the pathogens such as the phlegm, the wind, the coldness, the heat or the fire. We don't see the pathogens, but how do we know the pathogens? That we see reflection from the patient, the symptoms from the patient. Once we see the symptoms, we will know the pathogens. But if you don't see the symptoms, you don't see the pathogens. This is very similar. If you see the leaves of the tree is waving, you can know that there's wind. But if you don't see the tree, you will never know there's wind or not. Okay, so the symptoms is the reflections towards the pathogens. Okay, so we're going to stop here and thank you guys.